Hi, everyone. How are you? My name is Bethany Gonyea, founding director of Numinous, the organization that sponsors the Resonant Peaceful Cities project. And it is with deep, deep gratitude that I sit here today and to do this Zoom, because I know that if you're actually watching this Zoom, that it probably means that you are willing to record a meditation for the Legion of Light. And I'm so grateful for that, because I've been doing this work for years in many different ways. Numinous has been around for 21 years, and we have evolved this program over time. And I have seen the power of what happens when everyday people lead each other in sweetness and joy and peace and blessings. And I've noticed how very often people could just say one sentence in a meditation and it will completely ignite other people. And so because of that, I often ask meditation leaders to leave their contacts so that people can reach out to them. And and I've seen that. And then often people will go back to the same meditation over and over again, because that particular meditation leader really spoke to that particular person, right? And so it's so neat to have different people every day getting up and, going to your computer and saying, like, who am I going to meet today, right? So grateful that you're here. So this video is to tell you about what I call the Legion of Light meditation protocol. And basically, these protocols came about because we were doing research, right? And so just like any other research, you need to know what your dosage effect is. If it was a research on medicine, you'd want to know how much dosage you're giving the person over what period of time, what measurements, what variables do you need to know? And so because of that, years ago, when we first started out with our very first Albany Peace Project, and we had to figure it out, and we came up with a 15-minute protocol. And about a year later, I think we did it generally the first year. And then about a year later, I had kind of connected with Dr. Roland McCratty at the Institute of HeartMath. And he was kind enough to sit down with me, and he and I kind of worked through a protocol to give it timestamps, right? And so, but we got to the point where it came to the point of sending blessings to the city. And, we knew that there would be at least 5 minutes of sending blessings to the city. And at that point, in science, Roland was talking about like how, in science, things should be consistent. And I said, we'd only done it 1 year at the time. I said, I understand that things should be consistent. I said, but part of the joy of this work is that people look forward to waking up in the morning and they don't know who they're going to meet and what are they going to learn from that particular meditation leader. And so we came to a compromise, and the compromise was we would kind of have this kind of outline, this skeleton of which to follow. And then we would have a goal for each of the sections. And then we would leave the how up to the person leading the meditation, which is just so gorgeous and so beautiful, because you get to learn all these different ways of exploring consciousness. And obviously, I'm a big fan of exploring consciousness. So I love learning from others and seeing how they're kind of interfacing with the divine in the field. And so it's just super cool. So I'm so grateful that you're here. And I'm going to go over in a minute. I'm going to show you the protocol. And then in the end, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the sections. There's six steps to it over 20 minutes. And I am pretty particular about the 20 minutes because people often listen to this before work. And so, sorry, pardon me. People often listen to this before work, and if it runs long, people will tell me, basically. So anything that doesn't go so well, people reach out to me and let me know. So that's why I'm kind of a stickler on certain things. So we have people really follow this 20-minute protocol. And then also in the end, I'm going to share with you as far as how you can send your meditation in and how to do it in a particular way. I'm also going to give you a resource. Below this video, you'll probably find a SoundCloud link. And in that SoundCloud link, I'm going to be taking you through the protocol that I'm going to show you in a moment. And I'm kind of allowing you some space to almost have your meditation write itself. Right? Like, don't get intimidated by this. If you've never written a meditation, I've seen some of the most profound, moving meditations have been by people that have never written a meditation in their life. So don't be intimidated by it. And I kind of created this SoundCloud link to actually give you an opportunity to have your own meditation write itself. And I think you'll know more what I mean when I get to that. So I'm going to share my screen here, and I'll start to tell you about how does this work, right? Like, how do we put this together? And so this right here is the Legion of Light Protocol 2023. And if you look over in this gray column, you will see that there are 6 steps, right? So there's 6 steps along the way. And at each of the steps in this yellow column is what is the goal of the step, right? So this very first step is basically the goal of that step is to anchor your mind in the body or awareness in the body and connect to something larger to yourself. And so the time allotted for that is 3 minutes. And the stopwatch time would be 0 because obviously you're starting at the beginning of the meditation. And so you would say, and so you'd know that you had 3 minutes to bring people's awareness into their body. And then in the end, we invite people to connect to something larger than themselves, either maybe guides or their faith-based person, or even I often cue for people's subconscious if they don't really have a faith like that. So understand that that's how this works, and there are 6 steps to this process, okay? And I'm going to go through each of them in a minute. But first of all, I want to go over this top box here. And so the very first thing I say here is smile, right? So because people kind of get a little worried on their meditation, and so they might be a little tense, and you can hear it in their voice when they start meditation. So just stop for a minute, shake off the world, take a few deaths, make yourself smile if you have to, and help yourself kind of get into the groove of that's right. Oh, that's right. I'm here to serve. I'm here to lift others, and just kind of take a moment to connect to the energies yourself. So smile, and then introduce yourself, and often acknowledge their participation. So you might want to say something like, I have an example here. Hi, my name is Bill, and I'm recording from Louisville, Kentucky in the US. Thank you for meditating with us here today. Right? People like that. They want to connect with their meditation leader. They want to know who's speaking to them and leading them into these sweet places. And so it just takes a moment to help people kind of connect with you. And then for the first 3 minutes, obviously the goal of the first 3 minutes is to anchor the mind and the body. That's basically a body scan, and connect to something larger than oneself. So we encourage people from the very beginning to use as much light as possible. Okay, so as we're moving our awareness through the body in a body scan, instead of just moving our awareness throughout the body, let's move our awareness with light, or I often say kind awareness, right? So this idea of sweetness, that this idea of really invoking the goodness within ourselves as we roam through the body with our mind, so to speak. So those are themes that we work with. Now, I'm saying these things, but I'm going to ask you to please allow your own intuition to speak up. Right? Like, don't just because the protocol says it or I've said it or whatever. That's why I created that SoundCloud link below this video, because that's the gorgeousness of this work, is that, spirit or infinite love can actually get a word in edgewise, right? Like that we can quiet our minds enough to allow this greater wisdom come in to write our own meditations for us, right? Because then they're almost channeled meditations, right? They're just that we are being present and to the process. And I know that great beauty can come from that. And that is why I often say here, suggestion, right? So don't take this word verbatim. What I do want to take seriously is this goal, right? The yellow column. But you have some free reign to do the goal however you choose, right? So for the first 3 minutes, and notice up here, I say stopwatch time, right? So 0, it starts at 0. And then I could be just like kind of riffing on, calming the body or whatever. And then I see that it hit 3 minutes and I go, oh, I got to move to the heart, right? Stopwatch time is from 3 to 8 minutes on the heart. And it's a total minutes of 5 overall. And I ask people how do you relax your heart? How do you let go, right? What helps you feel appreciation? And so this idea that I'm kind of giving you these prompting questions so that you could allow your intuition to come through and invite people to open their hearts and let go a little bit. And so we spend the next 5 minutes on that. Years ago, Institute of Heart Math had given us permission to use their hot lock-in, which is some steps. You may or may not want to use that. And at the end of the heart one, we're encouraging people to, at this point, you're stoking the heart, you're opening it, you're really touching the hem of like divine love. And so at that point, we want to encourage people to almost like blur their identity, to allow yourself to blend in with infinite love, right? The physicists tell us that we are all connected. And so it's this idea that at this point, we're wanting to kind of not so much identify with our temporal nature, with our 3D nature, this earth nature here, right? But really remember that we are these infinite, eternal beings that crippled ourselves by putting ourselves into a human infant with a nervous system that can only see like 0.01, can only interact with 0.01% of the reality around us, true story. And so we've crippled ourselves into this nervous system that only lets in a small band of reality. And then we go through this life with this teeny tiny band of reality. So this is an opportunity for us to remember our larger nature. And by remembering our larger nature, then we can start gaining more access to all of this reality around us that we're not really paying attention to, that we are non-local, that this body is not who I am. This body just lets you this body just gives you a representation of where the spirit that is now embodying Bethany Gonyea is. Do you get that, right? So this body isn't me. It's the fact that it's just letting you know where the spirit is that is under the incarnation of Bethany Gonyea is, right? So it's this idea of we're identifying with our eternal nature, the truth of who we are. So especially just quick aside, so if you see any of the near-death research, near-death experiences, same idea, right? So anyway, so then we do that. And then at from the 8 to 12 minute mark, you'll see that we are sending intentions to the globe. Now, again, I'm giving you some suggestions here, but just allow your own intuition to come forward, right? You may suddenly be getting an image of, a lighted grid around the planet, or you have this image, you see a child in wartime that, could use some love, right? And comforting. Like, trust what comes to you, right? And because at that point, we've expanded our energy field, we've opened our hearts, and we have access to more information than we do with our eclipsed mind and our narrow thinking, so to speak. So we encourage people to, just help them broaden to the globe. Very often I will ask people to see where they're called to on the globe. It's very interesting. You just kind of see the globe in your mind's eye and you will know exactly where you're called to. I mean, it's amazing. And you may just find yourself pouring out love to this portion of the globe and you have no idea why, right? There's a wisdom greater than you coming through at that moment. So anyway, so we do about 4 minutes of bathing the globe in light, and then we leave 2 minutes for us to say this one affirmation. And this affirmation, I do ask that you say verbatim. This one affirmation gives us a cohesive intent every day, even though we've got different people doing different goals in different ways. But if every day we say this one intention and we just keep affirming it, right? Then in the etheric, we're creating a stronger and stronger and stronger grid pattern, so to speak, for it to manifest, right? So I encourage you, it's about 4 sentences. And see here, it says pause, non-verbally count to 5. Right? This is not the kind of affirmation that you want to run through all 4 sections. You want to say one section and pause and allow yourself to get into it. So for instance, this very first section says, together we take a moment to forget our names and remember that beyond all physical polarities, we are all connected through a field of intelligent, loving light. Let's take a moment now to dive deeper and deeper into this infinite love. Right? So giving that moment, that pause, to be able to sink into that beauty. So that is that section there. I gave about 2 minutes for it, because if you can just give it some good space, right? So that people can sink into the energetic pattern of it, not just stay on the surface of the mind in some words. And then finally, this almost second to last section is what I came up with after a few years. So years ago, we used to have a 15-minute protocol, but then I started to, just by working with people over time, what I wanted to do is to encourage people to have their own experience with infinite love, their own experience of like, how do you send intentions to your own life, right? So that you can start vetting this process to yourself, that this work works, right? Because I know how this rolls. I know people may not really think it works, and they don't really think they're doing anything, especially if they feel like they're not getting the results they want. But to that end, also to help people's belief system on that, we're doing this Legion of Light. And a segue here for a minute just on this topic, but with this idea that we're doing the Legion of Light every day, and then every maybe hopefully 3 or 4 months or so, we're going to stop for a week and we're going to bless a city. So for instance, the very first city that we're blessing this year is Louisville, Kentucky in July 2023, right? So ideally, we're going to have the Legion of Light up and going before that. That's the plan, although I was thinking today that the Legion of Light is going up before that. So like everybody's getting into the pattern. Every day they're going to their mat. They are blessing the planet. They're opening their heart. They're expanding their energy field. And then at the end, then we stop at the end of July and do a week in Louisville, Kentucky. And then Dr. Reinhold analyzes this police statistics, and we see how much of an impact our intentions have made, right? But then we go back to the Legion of Light right after that's done. And then we keep doing Legion of Light until we do another city. Now, I set it up this way for a reason, because I've been doing this work for years. And because I know at the end of peace projects, people want to keep it going. That's part of the reason why the Legion of Light. But the other reason why I'm doing it this way is because I want people to see that when we do these measurable impacts at the city level, it helps people believe and understand that when they're working at the global level, it's making a difference, right? Because so many times you could just say, oh, geez, is this really working, right? Yeah, bathe in the globe in light. Yeah, right? And all that doubt, right? So this, my idea, or that, I put together for years is, okay, let's put them together, right? So we, every now and then we do a city measurement to help people really understand that their intentions are making an impact. And then we keep the Legion of Light going, because this work works, and we definitely change the etheric when we do this. And I don't know about you, but leaving things the way they are, I don't know about how you feel about it. I'm not a fan of what's happening. So let's kind of start invoking some beautiful love and sweetness and gorgeousness and compassion, and in that compassion is strength. And so there's just another whole way to roll, right? So anyway, okay, so I segued there for this idea of helping, and I got to that because this section is where you're going to send intentions to your own life. So again, I put this in almost as like a science experiment for you in your own life now. So if you get into the practice every day of blessing challenging situations in your life and asking for the highest and best for all involved, and to every day get in the pattern of like, don't just like run out the door with your coffee and just kind of in chaotic energy, but can you take a moment and kind of get yourself calibrated within yourself, send intentions out, send love on ahead of you, so to speak, and then pre-pave the day for the highest and best outcomes. And there's no doubt, after doing this work for years, that people notice the difference, whether or not they're kind of smooth their day ahead versus if they haven't, right? So, and so that's usually how people get kind of addicted to this work, or they get into this work. It's because they try it for a while, they see the results, then they stop, then they see the chaos, and they're like, oh, geez, and they come back to the work, right? So it's a common pathway. And they may do that 3 or 4 times before they really get committed to the work. So anyway, so this idea that this last section is how can you bless your own life? And probably if there's something going on for you, there's a really similar theme that you could use for everybody. So I often use my own life, my own heart, my own body as ways to cue, because we're all human, right? We've all got these emotional things happening. And so speaking to those types of things may be particularly helpful to someone that's going through that particular thing. It's nice to broaden it too, though, like pick something and then broaden it so that other people can identify with it if they're not feeling that, right? Now, finally, in step 6, what we do is we surrender all of these intentions over to the infinite. So we let them go, right? So just imagine putting it in your palm and going, right? So the reason why we do this is because we live in this universe where free will reigns. So we are loved and cherished and respected so much that if we want to be miserable, we are more than welcome, right? The universe is like, have at it. I say I'd say, have a good time, right? Have a good time. If you're really attached to that misery, like go for it. Like, have a good time. So, so it's this idea of like, the universe will be like, have a good time, like enjoy and when you're ready, the universe is like, we're just waiting for you when you're ready. So the idea is that at this last section, in section 6, is this idea that we are ready to just let it go. Because if we're clutching, gripping, and grasping onto our intentions, then the universe, again, respects us so much that the universe is going to be like, well, she's clinging on, she's holding on. So we're, can't help her because she's got it. So, when she's willing to let go, then the universe can kind of come in and start working with us, right? So in the end, what we do is we surrender all of these intentions. We kind of get them out of our own nervous system and then calibrate back to ourselves and get that heightened level of detachment, which is where manifestation can happen, right? It's not a detachment like you're not connected to anyone or you don't care. It's this actually more proper calibration of our spirit to the field, right? So, all right. So those are the 20 minutes. Again, it's 20 minutes in general. And just in closing, I want to say a few extra things. Hopefully I'll remember everything. First of all, is what I suggest you do is you record this on your phone. What's really great is if you can borrow a phone from somebody else. I wish I had my phone here, but you basically put your phone here and you would do the recording on one phone and you set a stopwatch on the other phone, right? So I got one phone going that's recording, and then I got the stopwatch going, and I know that the first section is about anchoring awareness in the body with light, and then calling in a higher power. So I'll just riff on that for 3 minutes. And then once it hits 3 minutes on the stopwatch, then I switch over to the heart, right? So, so you can record on your phone with no music. Make sure, because I'm going to be putting the music in with Monroe sound frequencies. And then also send it in in one email. Please don't send me a bunch of emails with different things, because you can imagine with all these people I communicate with all the time, it's a lot. So I'm going to ask you on one email, please send me the recording, your name. If you want, are you willing to be contacted, please send me your contact information or your website, a picture of you, and like a 3-sentence bio, right? Because again, people will want to know who said that. Wow, that was a really profound sentence. I'd want to talk to that person on that, right? So, so I'm going to encourage you to please, if you're interested, you could send them in anonymously, and that's fine. I'm going to also encourage you to please do not record by an air conditioner. Do not record by a window with a street noise behind it. Mics are so good now, it picks it all up. I often will record in my closet, right? Because the clothes are around and they can dampen any sound, and it dampens any outside noise, correct? So you could do that. You could record in your closet. Also, try not to move. Try not to move. Someone said in this beautiful meditation, but she was wearing this nylon coat, and every time she moved, the nylon would rub against each other. And unfortunately, I had to ask her to redo it, right? And I have to tell you, I never, ever, ever want to reject a meditation or to ask someone to redo it, because I just feel lucky enough that people are willing and they're interested to do it now, right? But every now and then, if I do write you and say, listen, could you rewrite this? Could you redo this? Maybe the noise, a little bit too noise in the background. Maybe the ratio of time was way off or something. But no, I don't ever want to do that. And I don't like to do it. I mean, essentially, and also, by the way, I don't really have the time to do that. Okay. So if you could follow the protocol, that'd be super. So I don't have to ever do this. I do listen to all the meditations. And I love that. That's when I get heavily meditated, and it reminds me why I do all this work, because this is a ton of work. And again, the reason why I do this, why do I invest this time, is because I know that the end product will be that much better and sweeter. So, all right, now that just made me think of one other thing about why I do what we do. So let me just, that was really important too. Okay, so you'd send in the recording. I'm going to listen to it. Oh, the final thing I want to tell you is that we are so blessed to be now collaborating with the prestigious Monroe Institute in Far Harbor, Virginia. And if many of you know, they're known for their HemiSync. It was founded by Robert Monroe, who was basically having out-of-body experiences. And then in the 1970s, started the Monroe Institute. And they have been consciousness explorers and pioneering research in consciousness for, since the 1970s. So Bob Monroe played with sound immediately, and sound is one of the quickest ways for us to change our state, to alter our consciousness towards oneness, right? And so I feel so blessed because we are now collaborating with the Monroe Institute, and they have proprietary sound frequencies. They call it Monroe Sound Science, where they have been working. I actually work with them on that sometimes, or I'm part of the team that does some of that research. Basically, what will happen is we will introduce certain sounds, and then we measure brain waves, and that's one of the things I do. I help with the monitoring of the brain waves. And so what we do is we measure the brain waves, we get feedback on the frequency and the signals, and then we measure, and then Monroe will kind of use that to help them with their sound science, right? What helps us feel the happiest, the lightest, and so it's really just kind of some tuning of the brain waves, so to speak. So, but we have been so blessed because now they're going to be putting the Monroe Sound Science behind all of our meditations. And it's just a beautiful collaboration that we're doing with Monroe Institute. I would encourage you to check out their website, check out their incredible programs. They're in over 20 countries around the world, and just super excited to having this particular Legion of Light seated with them. So, all right, I believe that's it. I so appreciate you. I so appreciate your heart. I'm going to close up with one thing. Years ago, when I was working with the professor, my first professor that I worked with on this, he passed right after the first peace project. But what he said to me was, Bethany, what you need to understand is that the average person needs to go through 4 paradigm shifts in their life before they can come to the acceptance that their thoughts influence their reality, right? So understand that those paradigm shifts, like, people don't just like suddenly jump. Usually what happens is life starts to go very, very wrong. And people start to realize, my map of the world is incomplete. And so they start asking bigger questions, and then maybe they'll jump a level in consciousness. So to get 4 jumps in consciousness is actually pretty steep. But for somebody like you, you've been through them. You somehow have traded up into these understandings, as opposed to maybe other people that may have gotten really, really stuck. And maybe it was just totally understandable, because on a very deep level, we don't want to grow, right? And so many of us, it's almost like we dig our feet in. We're like, hell no, I won't go. Which is why, I believe substance abuse is running so rampant, right? Because we have all these things to kind of entertain us. And we'd rather just kind of get lost in that than really face what's happening inside, right? And really kind of do our internal growth. So the reason why I'm saying all this about consciousness and stages of consciousness or whatever is because I learned a long time ago, I have to spread this net really, really wide to find people like you, to find people that have gone through these different levels of consciousness, that have these understandings, that they get this understanding that their intentions influence what they experience. And so what I'm kind of putting a call out to all of us who understand such things, that it is important for us to take a stand in the etheric. It is important for us to put our shoulders back and head high and become leaders for light, and for us to stand in our knowing and to share this work with others. Right? Because this work doesn't travel on its own generally. In this particular venue, so to speak, what's the word? Vein, so to speak. So it's important for us to take leadership roles for light. And I tried to make this as straightforward and easy and as fun as possible, so that as many people can take a stand in the etheric, so that more and more people could join the Legion, so that every day we know that we're going to our mats and we are metaphorically sitting shoulder to shoulder with others who are holding space for this beauty, right? And then practicing in our own lives as we also practice holding this beauty and getting our own results. Finally, the other thing that happens with this work is you get happy. It's just what happens. It's a side effect of the work. Sorry about that. It's a side effect. But the reason why I say that is because every day we're lightening our hearts a little bit more. And when our hearts are kind of shrouded and there's, I call it scar tissue of the heart, but basically when or the heart's in lockdown, so to speak, it's not able to really dance. These are all metaphorical worlds, but they're I'm really just kind of giving metaphorical words to coherence, heart coherence. And so when our hearts can dance is when we get happy. And every day, I promise you, if you do this work and you lighten your heart a little bit more each day, you expand your field a little bit more each day, and you start setting intentions to your own life a little bit more each day, those three things will dramatically impact your life in the next year. And I personally can't wait to hear about it. So please stay in the loop. I'll be doing a ton of classes, just really encouraging people to open. Surrendered is the new powerful. That's my new phrase. Surrendered is the new powerful. And let's just have some fun together and start enjoying our lives a little bit more, because that's what this work does. It helps us to step into the buoyancy of our spirit, which helps us enjoy. So enjoy. All right, I'll see you or hopefully talk to you sometime. Take care. Bye-bye.